Alrighty, and so here we are again on one more live video for tonight. Before I turn in, I just wanted to sort of add to what I was saying before, and just share with you for a moment a couple of thoughts. Whenever I do historical discussion, I really do meditate, and that's a great word to use on what we do. Sometimes we like to meditate on some of the historical subject matter that is coming to us as historians, and I feel like I also meditate to a good extent on what's going on. The study of the past has always been a very deep and sometimes profound study because it happened. It was real. It is more real than the future in some cases. I mean, depending on what the subject is and the different people that are not studied. I want to say, really, I don't want to say that word, but I do want to say uh, contemplated, kind of politely revered in a sense. People and subject matter need to be taken seriously in their own time. And that kind of concentration almost wants to make one want to feel like they want to connect, they want to empathize, they want to get involved in the greater story of uh, the epical story of all stories, which is humanity as a whole. The town of Wheatfield is one small piece of that. And one of the things that I like to focus on are actually small or big abandoned places, little remnants of something that used to be small or big that inhabited an area at one point in time. And one of the places I personally explored uh, were I'm going to mention three different places in particular, actually four. One of them is the Niagara County Community College site. Now that's up in Cambria, but many Wheatfield residents went there over the years. I wanted to look for different remnants of houses and businesses and so forth that used to exist on the site before the campus was constructed there. Most notably, the Went family. A large part of the Went family had a farm there, and of course, that was taken by eminent domain. I found a newspaper article talking about how a family was barely compensated as far as that particular member of the Went family was concerned for the college to go in that place. Bearing in mind, too, that there were um, 7 or 8 other possible locations for this college, by the way, and that the town of Wheatfield is actually one of those possible locations with as many as three different sites kind of sort of tagged provisionally for the college to go. One of those locations was where the Summit Park Mall is today. Another location was just south of where the Summit Park Mall is now. And the third location was in the northeast area of town, kind of near um, Nash Road, Shawnee Road, that area in there. And that's also ironically where the Stone Quarry was going to go actually before the quarry business actually moved to the town of Niagara and was established there instead, as a side note there, a few years later. And the campus area still had a number of remnants to it. If you go over to the landscaping business where the nursery used to be on Route 31 right there, where all those yew bushes are actually on the outside and on the inside. There's a clue basically as to what it was. All those yew bushes used to be product. And they were for sale at one point. And when the nursery was adopted and the property, when everything else was torn down on it, those yew bushes were taken and they were replanted in such a way to make a copse, basically, a kind of uh, green space. Because after they tore down the structures and they pushed concrete here and there, they left the bushes to grow and hide that area. And other trees grew up in the meantime right there, and so that's why it looks the way it does. All those yew bushes didn't get there on purpose. The campus didn't purposely plant them from somewhere else. They were already there and were for sale at that nursery at one point, and now they're growing forever on the outskirts of the campus that grew up behind them in later years. Another place I visited was the former Frederick Bond House over on Bond Lake. I explored the foundations of that. Much closer to home, I explored the Ted Raw nightclub location, where the famous nightclub and restaurant was, right on the border between Wheatfield and Niagara Falls, along Niagara River, right there. I just wanted to sort of see and research as to what remains. So you got the curbing concrete borders facing at right angles from where the parking lot used to be, and some remnants of the foundations. I mean, this is where Joe DiMaggio and Marilyn Monroe was. I mean, they somewhat secretly went here along with other celebrities from 1930 up until 1972. Though at that point, it wasn't quite the glamorous night spot that it used to be. Allegedly, there were gangs and some fighting going on and rabble rousing between youth, and the nightclub had fallen into ill repute at that point, more or less. Although other people said it was just fine right up until the end when they went there, so it maybe depended on the night at that point. But the Ted Run nightclub and restaurant was a castle-like structure with what looked like a couple of rooks on either side of the space in between, and there was a arched doorway, and you'd go in through the middle there. You'd be dropped off, there if you wanted, and walked on in. So I wanted to see the remnants of this once interesting place. And the remains are fascinating, and it's interesting to note that this place full of mobsters and celebrities and politicians and just people in general wanting to have a nice, beautiful night dancing under the stars in some cases existed in my town, existed right here. And of course, I explored the Melody Fair site. Before it was torn down, of course, I went in there and took some pictures and filmed all around it, and kept going back and at every stage of the demolition process to get what was left. And then I created the Melody Fair Memories Facebook group page, which, like the Wheatfield History group page, also really exploded in popularity as people shared their comments and their memories about attending many concerts and graduations and speeches and other kinds of events there. So another unique and beautiful place at or near where we are. And of course, I went into the Bel Air Space complex a number of times on my own. I didn't film anything in there, but I did walk through, and the smells and the sounds of the atmosphere of what that huge, huge place is still so memorable to many people who remembered working there. And I've had three generations of my family that worked there over the years. My great grandfather, my grandfather, and my father from the other side of the family. So we have a very deep and storied connection there. And even just talking about these different explorations is very meditating, very spiritual to some extent. And I love talking about it with people. I love talking about what I do. It's a passionate thing. That's one of the things that I want people to understand about me, is I'm a passionate guy, and I tend to really get into something as I do. And so um, I hope that as we converse and we continue to talk, either in person or over video like this, however I can. I'm not a big tech expert on this stuff. This is about as sophisticated as it gets with me right now, but I look forward to working with other people who do know how to create the flashy graphics to a certain extent. But I like these kind of yellow light atmospheres. I think that it fosters conversation, doesn't put pressure on people. It's just a relaxing discussion. And I like having nice discussions with people over wine, even, and a little bit of food and so forth. I've always wanted to create a kind of live event where I could interview people on YouTube here and be able to share that. Very nice organic conversation of an interview, nothing structured, just reflections about what they remember about doing one thing or another in the town of Wheatfield. And that's the kind of interview that I like giving. And that is where I end up getting the most information, really, because the pressure is off. again, and we just whatever happens to come to mind to ask. The important stuff, of course, is covered, but all the stuff in between that connects it all, right? The different thought processes that go through people's minds as they recall their experiences of living and being alive. Why not, right? Why not just take it from there? Anyways, so just one more thought about um, this this sort of video discussion. I don't want to be the only one here that blabs. I'd like somebody else to join me on this, and maybe the next video will be with someone else who will be happy to join me in that conversation, and we'll grow it from there in this sense. So, anyways, have a good rest of the night. Bye bye.